Will, thanks so much for joining me here at IPPE. We're just starting it up, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about some of the work and some of the analysis you guys do at CoBank regarding chicken processing plants. There is quite an expansion of chicken processing floor space, plant space, coming online here in the next year or two.
Sure.
What is driving that from your guys' perspective at CoBank? And what are you seeing in terms of these plants coming online?
Right. We are seeing a pretty unusually significant amount of capacity coming online in a really short period of time. When you look at 2018 through 2020, we'll see 7 new chicken plants come online. We'll see 8, maybe 9% more capacity of just new greenfield capacity, and obviously with that's going to come hundreds of new chicken houses, the need for significantly more labor. What I think is really interesting is what's really driving these new plants, and that's really a byproduct, in our opinion, of the pretty significant levels of profitability the chicken producers have had really since 2012. Margins have been pretty positive for going on 6 years. Even in 2018, when chicken prices did start to decline to some degree in the back half of the year, we still saw a good number of producers positive. So what happens when any of us start making money? We start to want to expand, and that's not new news for any producer. What has been interesting, though, is that as those producers started making money now 6 or 7 years ago, one of the big questions they had is, how do we deploy that capital? The first question they had, or first goal, I think, was for them to acquire some of their competitors. And that's something that took many years for them to realize that competitors really weren't in the market to sell. And so obviously to have a deal, you have to have a buyer and a seller. We had a heck of a lot more buyers than we had sellers. And so as the producers realized that sellers weren't going to be easy to come by, they made the decision to expand through greenfield new plants. And then over the last 3 or 4 years, these new plants have been talked about. These new plants have been started with construction, concrete in the ground, and now we're starting to see them come online. So the first new plant came online in the summer of 2018. We've seen a couple more since then, and we'll see probably 3 or 4 by the spring of 2020 before it's all said and done.
Now, are you seeing this regionalized any, or is it happening in all of the, chicken processing is a regionalized kind of a thing,
Sure.
But is there a specific area where this expansion is happening, or is it just happening across the industry in all the normal places, I guess?
Right. I think that's what's very interesting about this round of expansion the industry is going through, is that for the most part, it's not where we've seen chicken plants being built historically. So we do see some in eastern North Carolina, North Georgia, not too far from where we are here at the Poultry Expo, but there are a number of plants being built in new poultry territory. The most probably obvious of those is the new Costco chicken plant. Not only is that a new player in the chicken industry, something that we have written on in a report last fall, but in Nebraska, we don't usually see broilers in that part of the world. We see some layers, but a heck of a lot more corn and soybeans. So the chicken industry is expanding, and I think where they are expanding is driven by really 2 variables. The first variable is the need for low-cost feed. The cost of moving feed around the U.S. is a heck of a lot more than it used to be. The rail costs are significant, and so you're seeing chicken companies move their production closer towards the corn and soybean production regions of the U.S. The second issue, and this is something that I think will be a very key component of this expansion, has been the demand and the need for labor, qualified labor. And that's something we don't see it not only in the chicken industry, but in U.S. agriculture like we used to. So it's a big issue, and I think it's one of the reasons why producers are moving to the region that they are.
So, there's always it's almost a cliche-ish word at this point, the bubble, right? So what does CoBank see as the future? What is this going to cause? And obviously, if you really knew, you'd be filthy rich. But what are you guys kind of forecasting, which is kind of an ugly word too, but what are you guys forecasting is going to happen here with all this expansion? Are we going to look at a precipitous drop, and is the bubble going to burst, or are these the right moves and the right reaction to what's going on?
Sure. I think one thing that's significant about the U.S. poultry industry that is a little bit different than the pork and beef side of things is that the poultry industry has growth opportunities both in the domestic market and in the export market. And so for chicken producers, they see opportunities for continued growth in per capita poultry consumption. Today half of poultry consumption in the U.S. is to the broiler sector. That has grown relatively consistently year after year. So anyone deploying $200-300 million for a new chicken complex does have that as a benefit. The second area I think that every producer is looking at is the export markets. While the export environment, I will say, for the last 12 months has been more than a little volatile, from trade bans and anti-dumping duties and significant disruptions from a lot of important customers, the poultry industry has not seen as much of that impact. They have seen definitely their fair share of volatility, but there's also a lot of opportunities out there. And when you look at the mix of chicken that's being exported around the world, it's to a diverse number of countries and continents. It's unusual to find a continent around the world where the U.S. is not sending poultry today. So as we talk about the developing middle classes, whether that's in Asia or Latin America, U.S. poultry has a competitive advantage for being a low-cost producer. And so chicken producers, whether that's dark meat that's being exported or chicken breast that's able to find its way into the U.S. consumer almost every day, it's a pretty good situation for them to be in.